questions. How many of you are farmers growing food at the moment? Yep, about to be. Fantastic. And any of you doing some sort of direct marketing already? Farmers markets or anything like that? Not yet? Okay, cool. Not yet. That was a bit bold, wasn't it? Yeah, cool. And just to give you a bit of context from the bio, yeah, my background is in government and policy, and about 4 years ago, myself and my partner, Serenity, over there, basically said, enough is enough. This isn't going anywhere. We need to work out how to get out there and get our hands dirty and actually support the people who are trying to get things done. And we've been studying and working on food systems, and it became very clear to us that distribution is the bottleneck in a lot of ways of connecting people who are doing sustainable agriculture, really trying to transform the way our land is managed, with people who care about that, but sometimes trying to actually connect with that food isn't as easy as possible, and that there's also some real issues with information flow and transparency in our food supply chains, particularly around some of the things that we were very conscious of when we got started, was that there is more to life than organic. Organic certifications are very important, but lots of people are also doing other things, and at the moment it's very hard to communicate to customers or people eating the food what some of those things are or how to be more clear about that. So those were some of the things that really drove us, and also that it's very important that people can be innovative where they are and develop the kinds of solutions that work for their local context. There isn't sort of a cookie cutter out of the box way to do direct marketing. So I'm going to talk through some examples, but to start with, I'll just give you a little bit of I think I talked about that. So I'm kind of coming from a major project at the moment is the Open Food Network, which is an open source platform we've been developing for a couple of years to really try and solve some of these problems, to make it easier for farmers to set up profiles, people can find them, explain their production practices, tell their own stories, but also to really simplify the process of therefore doing e-commerce, selling your products online, managing distribution, and particularly working with other farmers and other partners in the supply chain to do that. So as I talk today, I'll be peppering with some examples and terminology and kind of icons that are sort of explaining the way that we're dealing with some of these challenges in the Open Food Network at the same time as talking about what some other farmers are doing. So why bother? The small to medium farms in Australia are losing ground quite quickly. This graph shows the grey line is the total area of farms, which is dropping off, but then the yellow line shows the number of farms, which is dropping off significantly faster. So basically what this graph is showing is the increasing corporatisation and size of farms in Australia, and particularly as people become under more stress, this is only accelerating. So this graph, the yellow-orange line at the bottom is the net value of farm production in Australia since 1990s at the beginning, and the dark brown line is the level of farm debt in Australia. So that's the kind of situation that a lot of people are sitting on in terms of farming, which is why farm viability and the ability to capture the value of your produce is so important. This last one, don't worry, I'll get off the graphs in a second. Last one is the proportion of the value created in the agri-food sector that's going to farmers. So in 1900, that's the grey bar that the farmers were getting, and in 2000 you can see where the grey bar has got to. So this is the kind of context of what we're trying to turn around or what we're trying to shift. So what can we do about it? So obviously there's a lot happening in this space, which is one of the reasons why we get so excited about it and want to work on it all the time. I really like this sort of bullseye picture because it recognises the value of a lot of things that are going on in the space. So the nub in the centre is about personal production of food. So it's about people reconnecting with growing food in their back gardens, you know, community gardens, all of that kind of thing that's going on, which is also particularly important for people really learning and recognising the value of food production and how challenging it can be. Then the next level is about direct producer to consumer. So where you have farmers markets, so farmers going and directly selling their food to the customers, or doing community supported agriculture. So they'll have a group of customers that buy from them every week or month. So you have a direct relationship between that farmer and that set of customers. At the next level, tier 2, is called kind of strategic partners in supply chains. So this is where you have farmers working together or with other partners to get more efficiencies or streamline their distribution, do collaborative marketing, things like that. So that's particularly where I'm going to talk quite a bit about food hubs, kind of fall into that category of how do we work together to do distribution better. And then we move up into the other areas like large volume, global anonymous. So this graph is not here because I expect you to be able to read it. So I can point anyone who wants to read the actual detail on it. But basically what this shows is the top half of the picture is the value of sales, and then the axis going across horizontally is the volume. So what we're seeing is that up here in the top left is about getting high value of your sales, but your volume is likely to be quite low. So this is kind of about marketing and sales strategy for farmers. So you can be really focused on, we're going to capture the maximum value for every item we produce, and we're not going to try and get higher volumes. So it's really about, so that includes things like farmers markets. So as much as you can sell kind of face-to-face, some of the really direct CSA, you know, it really is about capturing every cent in the dollar from the produce, but you're not trying to move, you know, tons and tons of it. On the right is about, okay, you're still trying to have a high value of your sales, but you're trying to move a greater volume of produce. So you might be working more into wholesale. Can you access restaurants? Can you access other institutions? Can you work with other farmers to get a bigger range of produce that you can actually then offer to your customers? And also, again, we're food hubs. So it's about how you actually work with a group of farmers, share infrastructure, share trucks, things like that. The bottom two are about low value. So the purple box is the danger zone. So we've got low volume and low value. So I'm going to assume that no one wants to be in that box. And the one on the right is commodity, which is where you're really trying to push up your scale. You're trying to produce as much as possible so that you can make a margin, even though you're getting a very low return from your produce. There's lots of people who are operating in that space, but for the purposes of today, we're going to assume that that's not really what we're talking about. So in our kind of terminology, we're calling it this top left, direct marketing is like a farmer who manages their supply chain end to end. They're like a farmer that is also a shop. You know, they're also their direct front. And these ones are more about where multiple farmers are working together through a food hub or some other form to provide a combined offering to the marketplace. Okay, direct marketing, farmers markets, I'm pretty sure you all understand what they are. Just a little note that I wanted to make on this, that there's quite a bit of evolution happening in this space as well, as farmers markets are trying to work out how to increase the value for people in the trip that they're making to the farmers markets. So for example, we're working with the Melbourne farmers markets to look at what are the kind of online offerings that might be possible alongside or with the farmers markets to help improve the value for the farmers who are going there. Producers selling and distributing directly. I wasn't here in time for Rod and Ben's talks this morning, but unless I'm completely out of date, I think that's pretty much what they're doing, is managing their own supply chains from kind of end to end through networks of customers who are really interested in accessing their produce. Tammy's going to talk after me, so she can explain a bit more about how she manages her sales. But broadly, the way that we would kind of put this in this terminology or iconography is about, this is where you've got a farmer who's potentially managing multiple shops, multiple places where people can collect their food from. They might do some delivery, they might have a range of collection points. So basically they say to people, you can buy all of our produce and you can pick it up from here in Carlton or here in Ballarat or here somewhere at this particular place and time. And this is a way of trying to get some efficiencies. You're not wanting to do home delivery to every household, so you're trying to get the households to take on some of that. And also there's a lot of community building that happens around that, if you can get a group of people that's really interested in. The other thing that's happening in that model is quite often they select locations that are, you know, retail shops that are interested in this kind of thing, something like that, so that they're really helping that shop to get more people in. So people kind of buy online and in advance, and then they'll go and pick up their order at a shop, and then they'll pick up whatever the other things that they couldn't get from that farmer at the same time. So there's quite a lot of interesting innovation going on in that space. Also, coming out of that, we're starting to see farmers working together and collaborating in how this works. So for example, Bonnie Beef, which is up in Imbil, somewhere in Queensland, they got in contact with us during our crowdfunding campaign and set up themselves as a shop online to be selling their produce. They have a network of points. People can pick it up from the farmers market. They can pick it up from a couple of different shops, things like that. And then they contacted us a few weeks later and said, look, if we're driving into this market, we're driving into these shops, is there any reason we can't sell produce from other farmers around us and save them the trip into town? So we start doing collaborative distribution. And we said, sure, that's what we designed it for. So we were very excited that this was the first person kind of being farmer-driven to do this. So they then set up another couple of farms around them on the Open Food Network, and they do this shared distribution. So they have a shared shop front. People can see, okay, which farmer am I buying from, buy it all, and then just basically pick it all up in one go. So it looks a bit like that, multiple farmers coming through a single hub. Just to mention, we've now got another couple of farmers exploring this option. So people who've come to us as single farmers and said, okay, actually, this isn't going to work as just me because I'm trying to sell, for example, a whole beef or something like that. So in order to build our customer base and get people excited, we need to have a wider range of produce. So they start actually talking to the farmers around them about, okay, how can we start putting together something that gives us a really good offering to take to customers? So broadly speaking, you know, we call this a food hub, where you're bringing food from multiple farmers together and looking at different sort of supply chains. How do you get that to customers? It can be either that you have this network of collection points or pickup points, or that you do delivery, or that you work with restaurants, wholesalers to get bigger orders, etc. So we're really trying to give that flexibility to the farmers. You know, who do you want to work with your customers to be? How do you want that supply chain to work? Where do you want to pick it up from? All of those kinds of things. So this is an example of a project we've been working on for a couple of years in the southeast of Melbourne. So kind of from Dandenong outwards into Casey, Cardinia, etc. It's a growth area. So you've got some of Melbourne's most valuable market gardens and horticulture production, and you've got a rapid expansion of housing across those areas. So it's really quite contested. When we went in there, we're sort of like, this is nuts. You've got rapidly growing populations with very high levels of obesity, food insecurity, etc. Coles and Woolworths basically own the new housing estates, and they sell off bits to the housing developers to put the houses on, but they own the actual retail shopping centres, etc. before you even start. So I'll just get a little bit distracted. In some of those, they've actually got examples now in the city of Casey where you've got your shopping centre and the anchor store is like Coles, and because everyone knows that Coles owns the whole shopping centre, no one's going to put an independent butcher, baker, fruit and veg shop, anything like that, into the shopping centre, because Coles will just drop the price until they go out of business. So in these shopping centres, you now have the supermarket, and the only people who will take that independent retail food court bit are fast food, basically. So the kind of diversity you have for your food access in these areas is really very poor. And you're sitting in the midst of this incredible, diverse, productive kind of zone. So we went out there to see, look, is there a way that we can do this? Can we work with a group of farmers to set up an alternative supply chain that can help us to get food to people in this area? We've been working on it for a couple of years. It's hard actually getting this to be viable, and especially like working with different customer groups. You know, it's not like working in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. You're not working with a really, wealthy and, green voting kind of engaged population. So it is really interesting. But yeah, it's growing slowly. And this is basically about, we have a group of farmers who bring the produce into one place. We pack it out and we take it out to a network of community centres, schools, people's houses, things like that. So we've set up a range of buying groups in areas where people are like, look, we really need fresh food here, and so we really want to try and get some alternative models going. We also have the flexibility within this. This has all been done within the Open Food Network, is to have, this is a fundraising opportunity for the school or the community centre, etc. They put a couple of dollars on each order or something like that so that they can raise some money. Okay, so then how does this actually look to a customer? So what we're working on, well, what exists at the moment, is that you can come to the Open Food Network, you can have a look on the map. Each of these dots opens up to a farmer, set up their profile, whatever our kind of production practices, etc. You've got a couple of different ways to search it, looking at, where can I actually buy things from? If it's a hub, what sort of produce do they have? Is it fruit and vegetables, eggs, things like that? And which farmers are they working with? From a farmer's perspective, there's a page that's like, just search through the farmers, but then you can also see which hubs are they working with, how can you actually get their produce, can you buy it online or is it connected to shops elsewhere? And then basically you click through into the shop and then it's just like a online shopping experience, except with a really strong focus on transparency. So at any point you can find out more about the product, you can see exactly who the farmer is, you can see the price breakdown, so how much is the farmer getting, how much has been put on by hubs or other people in the supply chain, what production practices, organic or land care or things like that, are they attaching to these products? The other thing that we've built into this is the ability to set up a kind of group identity or portal, so that if you have a local marketing group or something like that, you have a page that you can go to and see all of the farms and hubs, etc., that are connected with that group. So that's a way of basically, we know there's a lot of local councils and things spending, $30,000, $40,000 on local food directories, and basically saying we can do this a lot cheaper if we do it together. So basically providing a kind of infrastructure, which is also actually a big part of our rationale for all of this. The Australian government reckons that small businesses spend between $4,000 or $5,000 a year on setting up their websites, trying to do their direct marketing. It's always harder than you think it's going to be. We've certainly found that. Building websites is quite challenging. So yeah, how do we actually reduce that barrier to entry for people to start experimenting with selling a little bit directly, doing some direct distribution, etc. One of the big things that we've found, we've been kind of in sort of beta testing for about a year with early adopters, and one of the things we're finding is that people contact us and what they're really trying to work out is a whole lot of things. What the technology can do is one part of it. Yeah, basically the technology is not going to solve all the problems. It's not going to find all of your customers. It's not going to work out where your distribution and collection points are or how much you need to charge for delivery and things like that. But what we already are starting to see is people being able to see what other people are doing. And certainly there's a couple of shops in Melbourne that are being used as collection points for a number of different farmers. And those farmers are bumping into each other in the shops and starting to talk about, okay, how does this work? So we are starting to get an effect where people are more easily able to connect, look at what other people are doing, find farmers who are selling directly, etc. But there are lots of other resources around for actually trying to think, what is your business model? What are you trying to do with your direct or collaborative marketing? Some things that have been really useful to us are ideas like the Lean Startup, which is basically just do a little experiment and see what works, and if it doesn't work, that's completely fine. Just work out what you've learned from that and shift, try something else. This is a space where everybody is innovating and testing and not everything is going to work. But one of the things that's really valuable is actually about how we can learn from each other about what is working and what's not. There's a great resource from Greenhorns in the States, it's called Cooperative Farming, but includes a lot of resources and information about marketing, working with other people, how to actually organise yourself around cooperative marketing and things as well. And the business model generation, I think we're almost at the point, if anyone else tells us to do a business model canvas, we'll probably punch them in the face. But it's a very good thing to do sort of once or twice, to just really think through, who are the customers that we're trying to meet? What is the value proposition that we're offering them? How is that unique from what other people are doing? How are we actually going to reach them? What are our communications channels? Is Facebook the main thing that we're dealing with? Is it Twitter? Is it actually working through our local community and the school? So it's really thinking through some of these questions about, who are you trying to reach? How are you trying to reach them? And then putting the tools together to actually facilitate that or make it easier for you. So where are we up to? So basically we crowdfunded in August last year with a view to a full launch of everything in March this year. So we're running a little late, but we're not bad. So basically we're in the final stages of a makeover and information upgrade so that people can actually come to the website and understand what it is. That's the grand plan. We'll see. We're happy to have feedback of whether that works or not. And progressively launching in different regions through May through August. This is partially around, we want to start driving customers to the website and being actually able to help people with marketing, but there's no point driving everyone to the website if they, type in, I don't know, Alice Springs and there's nothing there. So we're taking a focus of, okay, how do we build up in different regions so that there is a real value for people arriving and seeing what they can do. You can all go and set yourselves up now if you want to. If you're interested in having a profile online, that will always be free. And the link is there about how to do it. And as we launch, the shop fronts for a producer or hub cost 2% of transactions capped at $50 a month. So we really don't want this to be a disincentive to anyone. We'd love it to be free, but we're sick of writing grants. So, so we've basically tried to work out a business model that means if you don't get any sales through it, it'll cost you nothing. So there's no disincentive to getting set up and having a go. And if you start making lots of sales, that doesn't mean it's going to start costing you thousands of dollars a month. So that's basically how we've designed that. Lots of interest internationally. As I mentioned in passing, this is an open source project, which means that people can set up what we're doing and start building it internationally. We're really not interested in a, multinational. We believe that people should be in control of their local food systems where they are and this kind of independence. So we have, at the moment, there's 3 actually organisations. The Open Food Network in the UK has set up an organisation. There's one in Norway and there's one in South Africa. And people getting this code up and running and starting to work to build their local food systems as well, which is very exciting for us, especially because they have developers who help us actually make it better, which is very good. That's about it. We're a non-profit registered charity. We're all about actually trying to create tools and infrastructure to help the food systems transformation. And you can contact us to find out more and ask questions. How was that for timing? I didn't even practice that.